Welcome back to my war chest. This is my glossary of power to make you armed and dangerous when it comes to the debates and the issues of today's times. And we're up to the L's, and L stands for language drift, and this is the reason why we have dictionaries to limit it. Language must be recalibrated from time to time to continue to accurately reflect reality and not to distort it or distort true meaning and hence cause confusion everywhere it is spoken. Be sure to ask yourself, what does conversely really mean? Isn't everyone converting when they have a significant change of mind over any philosophical, political or religious conviction? Where is the inherent coercive element implied currently? Or what about unpatriotic? How did that become a whip word to shame people into adopting causes they were deeply uncomfortable with? Ditto for homophobic and fundamentalist. Language drifts. Literalism is not real or implied in the term fundamentalist, and I have yet to meet anyone who would admit to being frightened of same-sex orientated people. Disapproving maybe, even sympathetic for their plight, but not actually frightened of them. Beware language drift. Beware too low-resolution speech, the tool of acrimony and confusion. The use of loaded or vague or misused terms or labels to persuade or coerce is common amongst polemic political debaters. Racist, sexist, anti-trans, gender binary, gun-loving, homophobic, unpatriotic, conversion therapy, God, fundamentalism, fascism, etc. Now, the use of all these words does far more to darken counsel than to enlighten it. And those who reach for them demonstrate that for them, the discovery of the truth of the matter barely registers on their personal agenda priority list. And they are ultimately the hidden reason behind why language drifts. Number 3 in the L's would be the lie. Now, if truth may be described as an accurate description of reality as it is, and not just what it appears to be, then any attempt to deliberately misrepresent reality with a false construct, a fantasy without factual basis, must be deemed to be a lie. Usually found to be a reconstruction or reinterpretation of facts to fit a preconceived narrative. What people believe usually depends, in the final analysis, on why they need to believe it. That's a quote from Gary Cox, the British philosopher and biographer. How we see a situation depends largely on how we need it to look. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. A quote from Upton Sinclair. Have a look too at my words on confirmation bias. Don't take what I've said, exaggerate it to mean something I didn't say, and then try to use it to discredit my entire argument as well as defame my character. I'm not playing that game. Jordan Peterson's protest in a recent YouTube interview. Number 4 in the L's is liberal hysteria. Labelling any disagreement or challenge as violence against the weak, the poor, the black, the female, the LGBT, etc. And the stating of facts or enforcement of discipline as oppression of their identity or creating their powerlessness, etc. Liberal hysteria doesn't take the Constitution on free speech seriously at all, because you have no right to ever say or do anything that is personally offensive to me, is the underlying assumption behind all liberal hysteria. What about lockstep, also known as intellectual phase locking, as illustrated by the king's subjects in the brilliant Hans Christian Andersen story of the Emperor's New Clothes? Fudging and merging to conform, to avoid taking fire, a true politician's defence system. And as well, a media's procuration of government funds, and a university's need to present a single narrative in order to meet the conditions to procure those lucrative research grants, the lifeblood of the academics. How many scientific journal reviews have you read lately whereby their editors pre-select peer reviews to accord with or oppose the fashionable views of the Darwins and the Faucis of the day. Have you read any positive creation science articles or scathingly critical mRNA reviews in such journals at all? The science is settled on the matter. It speaks with one voice, they say. Oh, no, they don't, and they never have. So when you hear this phrase, it's time to smell a rat, because this is the phrase that most commonly precedes lockstep, the unanimous artificial narrative. This is in stark contradiction to the evidenced fact that science is very rarely settled on anything new or controversial, or that has been inflicted upon us, or in any way faddish. Reason skepticism is and must always remain the smoke alarm of scientific extremism, faddishness, alarmist reports, hyper-optimism, and extreme claims. And L is for the Luton Lesson. When does Britain or any host nation draw a line on immigrant misbehaviour? Read the Rotherham report about a badly frightened two-tier police system, one treatment for passive Brits, another for the far more reactive Muslim. Consider ex-English Defence League EDL leader Tommy Robinson, whose own town council and the police abandoned their own citizens and refused to ASBO or go after Pakistani Muslim criminals for fear of Sharia law and being labelled racist. The young Muslim thugs actually took over the entire city, harassing, creating no-go zones, mugging, beat-ups and intimidating the citizens and students till they hid behind boarded windows or fled the city. Even St George's Day celebration insignia was banned by the British police to appease the Muslim. See chemical jihad using heroin on www.saveluton.com. I hate to say I told you so, but we now live in an English town where 7th century barbaric culture has taken hold. The police now target and persecute anyone who simply highlights the threat and danger to our city as if it were pre-criminal activity. Category A jails are radicalising all who go in there now. The terrorists are not confined to solitary, they are now in the wings. As an answer, interfaith has proved ineffective. Only the Muslims can solve this problem now. Not in my name was started by moderate Muslims, outraged at the activities of the zealots who would stop at nothing in their zeal to obey Allah. Number 7, mum's net. A colloquial term for what is considered by some men to be essentially female characteristics. Qualities deemed to be far too limited to fit the woman they are projected onto. Limited as they are by their overarching perspective of their own first female imprinting as encountered in childhood. Perhaps the deepest and earliest form of bias, and appropriately difficult to remove or compensate for in a man's mind, resulting often in absolute honour and respect, or total misogyny and psychopathology, and pretty much everything in between. You've been listening to Dave Riddell's War Chest, the Glossary of Power. I hope you're finding it at least interesting. And if you agree with everything I've said so far, perhaps you should watch it again. We'll see. If you like what I've said so far, let me remind you that you can download the entire transcript for free. Click here and you'll be able to read it for yourself.